Hello and welcome. We have more breaking news. After it seemed more than certain that the US is going to deliver Abrams, M1 Abrams to Ukraine, the German government has now said that they are also going to deliver MBTs, main battle tanks, the Leopard 2A6. One company of them will be handed over to Ukraine. In this video, we are going to talk about the handover of the tanks, how many are available, and how competent, how potent is that tank actually in comparison to the Russian foes it will likely face. What you've seen here is the Leopard 2A6. It's the oldest version within the German armed forces, which currently has 2A6, 2A6M, and 2A7. It is from 2001, but extremely potent. What you see here, that especially that wedge-shaped armor, we see it here from the inside, for instance, is unique in the world. It's only used on the Leopard 2. A5 and older, and it's made of a composite screen that is meant to make APFSDS. These are more or less darts, armor-piercing darts. Once they penetrate through that screen, they are supposed to tumble. So you can more or less imagine, instead of hitting the armor behind it straight, they're hitting like more of an angle after having crossed through the composite screen, and then they just slap against the armor behind it, which makes it more or less invulnerable. Of course, this is only theoretical, like everything is only theoretical. The longer the dart is, the higher the chance is that it hits at a point where the distance between the composite wedge screen and the armor behind it is shorter than the length of the dart. At this point, the effect will more or less be negated, but the closer it is to the center and in relation, the shorter the dart is, the more the tank is invulnerable from the front in the turret. And this is important because it mostly is about the sides, close to the gun. There are some weak points where it can still be penetrated, but obviously this weak point has to be hit first. The tank itself has composite armor. The turret itself is well armored but can be penetrated. But here comes in effect the fact that the European tanks and the Abrams as well are made to fight delaying action, which means they have a strong reverse gear. They are fairly fast driving to the back, and if the Ukrainians use those tanks appropriately and are trained appropriately, they can more or less go behind a hill and just drive forward until their turret peaks out. Then they shoot, and then they can use the powerful, strong, fast reverse gear to go back into cover. That way, only exposing the well-protected turret and not the weaker hull that is more easy to be hit. At the same time, it has the RH-120 millimeter cannon, smoothbore. It's the same caliber as the tank from the gun from the M1 Abrams, but since the A6, the German Leopard 2 tanks have the L55, no longer the L44, which is used in the Leopard 2A5 and earlier, and in the Abrams. The US are building the Rheinmetall cannon under license. The L55 thus is longer by 11 caliber length, so it has a longer length. That means the muzzle velocity is higher, the range is higher, and the accuracy is higher. At the same time, the cannon remains a 120 millimeter NATO caliber gun, so it's fully compatible, for instance, with the ammo from the Abrams and vice versa. Obviously, there might be some difficulties which I cannot fully confirm yet, because while the cannon itself should be perfectly fine shooting a round from an Abrams, that doesn't necessarily mean that the fire control is fully set up to adjust for different weights, different powder strengths, etc. As obviously a dart, there are different versions of, for instance, the APFSDS. The US are using depleted uranium, whereas Germany uses tungsten. So while it should more or less work, putting the cartridge into the German tank, it doesn't necessarily mean that it keeps the same likelihood of hit with the first shot. But generally, they are compatible when it comes to the ammunition. The tank itself carries 42 rounds in itself. 15 of those are in a ready rack here that is protected by blowout panels, which means it's like a bunker that is closed with an armored door when the loader doesn't have to put a new shell in it. In case it is hit at that point, the explosion goes the way of least resistance, which is upwards through the turret, through those blowout panels. So in ideal case, the crew will be unharmed even if the ammo is hit there. But this has to be said, it only is for the 15 ready rack rounds. The rest is in the hull, and if it's getting hit, they can blow up like in any other tank and completely destroy the tank in this case. The gun itself supposedly has a penetration with the newest rounds. I think those should be the DM63. I might be wrong here. But with those, supposedly the penetration is at 1000 millimeters RHA. RHA means rolled homogeneous armor. So rolled steel, more or less. This is taken now as a reference in penetration strength, whereas no modern tank has rolled homogeneous armor in the front anymore, or almost no has rolled homogeneous armor in the front. It's being taken to have a general reference number when it comes to penetration. Should this number be true, and you hear that I don't fully buy it because there's secrecy in between, some of it might PR, some of it might be rumors that have been elevated to suddenly be facts or something, but should the 1000 millimeter RHA actually be true, then this would mean the rounds from the Leopard 2A6 can penetrate every Russian MBT from the front, basically at any point, except maybe the T-14 Armata, but this tank is not in active service yet and is not in Ukraine yet and will likely not appear there. So the Leopard 2A6 will be able to handle the T-72 B3M, the T-80 BVM, and the T-90M from the front. Its gun is powerful enough. At the same time, it has hunter-killer capability, which means the commander can use a panoramic scope, which has also thermal vision. So he is able, thanks to the thermal vision, even during the day, to identify an opponent's tank really fast. Then with a click, he sends the turret in that direction, so the gun is already pointed at the target. That way also saying the gunner where the target is. All the gunner has to do at that point is hit the laser rangefinder, measure the distance, and fire, while the commander is already looking for the next target. So while the commander is looking for targets and commanding the tank, the gunner shoots. There's also a driver here in the front, and there is a loader, as this tank is like the Abrams, for instance, or the Challenger or the Ariete. It still has a four-man crew, which at the time of conception was considered to be superior, but nowadays they're coming out of fashion. But at the same time, while an autoloader nowadays can be as successful as reliable as a fourth human being, that means the crew to do maintenance, to do guard duty or anything like this is reduced in a three-man crew, and thus the workload for everyone is higher. And with a four-man crew, at least in theory, you have some chance of replacing somebody of replacing a loss. So in this regard, a four-man crew, the crew itself, thanks to the thermal vision for both commander and gunner, means that the Leopard 2A6 has a high chance of identifying its target first. As I've said many times in the past, generally you can say the guy who's the side that identifies first is shooting first, and the side shooting first usually is hitting first, and the one hitting first is usually winning the engagement. And the Leopard 2A6 delivers a punch that should end every fight when it hits properly. At the same time, thanks to the thermal vision and the hunter-killer capability, it is superior to most Russian tanks when it comes to optics, while it carries a punch that ends the fight before it even starts. In this regard, the Leopard 2A6 will be the most powerful tank in the Ukrainian arsenal, depending on which version the Abrams is being sent. Then obviously the old debate will start whether Leopard or Abrams is better. Ask someone in Europe and he will insist it's the Leopard. Ask an American and he will insist it's the Abrams. But generally both of them are fairly close in capability, and with the Leopard 2A6, Ukraine is actually getting a really powerful tank here. Now, how many tanks are they going to get? This is somewhat unclear. The German news media, which said it here, says Germany is sending 14 tanks. That's one company. Poland also announced 14, but those are Leopard 2A4. They are more or less from the 80s, still already with thermal vision for the gunner, but less powerful armor, less powerful gun, less powerful ammo. In this case, still a powerful tank, but less than that. How many can be in total? Rheinmetall, the German defense company, says they have 22 Leopard 2A4 in storage, but they have to be refurbished. They would be delivered in the next 12 months. They also, the newspaper here says there are 29 more at Rheinmetall, which are meant for the so-called Ringtausch exchange program, where, for instance, the Czech Republic has given T-72 to Ukraine to be replaced with Leopard 2s. In this case, they claim that those would be available, but this is definitely wrong, because I've already read the confirmation by the Czech government that they say they cannot hand over their Leopard 2s A4s. They need them for themselves after having handed over all those T-72s. So 14 2A6 from Germany, 14 2A4 from Poland, 22 2A4 will likely come from Rheinmetall. Also, Rheinmetall has another 88 Leopard 1 A5, also already with thermal vision, 105 millimeter, but there exists powerful ammunition for it. Surely a less capable tank, but still a powerful tank, a tank that can handle a lot, maybe not most, but a lot of what the Russians will put against it. They are also available. Finland wanted to deliver, it's unclear how many. They had roughly 100 A4 in storage, but some of them supposedly might have been scrapped or used for spare parts. Some of them might have been rebuilt into bridge-laying tanks or air defense tanks. So realistically, Finland probably has 60 to 80 Leopard 2A4s available in storage, or in storage. They might not be immediately available. Whether they want to empty out that storage or not obviously is their decision. I can't preempt this, but in general, we should expect, with other nations likely joining in, that at the end of this week we will have the confirmation for one armored brigade made of Leopard 2s of various versions for Ukraine, and the overall potential obviously is in several hundreds, 200-300, maybe a little bit more, in addition to the American M1 Abrams. So Ukraine can expect powerful tanks now, and while the Leopard 2A6 is the oldest version from the German armed forces, it is still one of the most powerful Leopard 2s, and thus one of the most powerful tanks in the world that is going to head towards Ukraine within the next months. And will help the Ukrainian government, the Ukrainian state, to liberate and defend its country. That was it from me for now. I hope this was interesting to you. This channel is only possible because of the support from viewers like you. If you like to support the channel, you can do so by the means in the description. Thank you very much for everyone already supporting. If you liked what I do on this channel, I would invite you to subscribe to the channel, hit the bell icon so you don't miss future videos. If you enjoyed the video, please hit the thumbs up button, leave a comment. What do you think? How many tanks will come now? How many brigades will Ukraine be able to build? And do you actually think Scholz made it on purpose to force the Americans to pinch in with their own tanks? Do you think he claimed he will only deliver tanks until America does, to force them to join at the same time? Your comments will be interesting, and I'm looking forward to them, and obviously they help a lot with the algorithm. So thank you so much for your support. If you want to help the channel grow, recommend it to your friends and acquaintances to help it grow. And that's it from me for now. Thank you for watching, and I'll be back.